stand by for action.
Thanks for joining me. My name is Dave Miller. I am the Unpleasant Blind Guy. I want to start out by thanking Bing, that's Trad Americans on the Twitter, for inclusion of my show Keepers in his Twitter compilation, The Zack Pack Daily. I also want to give a shout out to Ron8072 on the Twitter for kind words and sharing of the Ramadan Bite. That Muslim that borrowed my computer and accounts to make that is pretty wily and tricky, and you never know when he isn't going to show up again. And finally, I want to give thanks to everyone who participated in the 7-on-7-7 effort this year. There were some lovely displays put up, and much respect was shown for our brothers and sisters in the United Kingdom in sympathy for their losses during the 7/7 bombings. The show hosts who played the 7-on-7-7 promo did me a great favor, and next year I'll be asking everyone to mark 7-on-7-7 again. I'm going to begin by talking about something that most listeners will probably think has little or nothing to do with them, but I'm going to ask you to stick with me because it is relevant. Now recently, Greg Gutfeld, host of the TV program Red Eye, heard at 3 a.m. Eastern on Fox News Channel, left the show after having been its founding host for several years. His replacement is a comedian named Tom Shalhoub. I like Tom Shalhoub. His comedy is clever without being overly offensive, and he has an overall good persona as a host. Not long after he took over Red Eye, however, fans of the show began noticing changes in the panel that the host interacts with to make up the show. More and larger number of panelists began appearing whose leanings are rather far to the left. Many longtime fans of Red Eye have been disturbed by this, and some of us have made our displeasure known. This drew immediate reactions from some people, including personal attacks, and suggestions that we allow Tom Shalhoub and the producers of Red Eye to run the show without interference from the fans. It was pointed out that if the producers and hosts of Red Eye listened to the fans, the show would not be what it is. Well, I actually disagree with that. If the producers and hosts of Red Eye in the past had not listened to the fans, it would not have remained the success that it has been. You see, Red Eye is unique among television shows because it combines a mostly conservative panel and host with clever comedy, and it works. Sadly, most conservative opinion-based comedy programs don't last. But Red Eye has managed to do so, and part of the reason it's done so is because of the support of its fans. This new change, however, has disturbed a significant number of those fans to a point where they are considering turning away from Red Eye. People like Lead and Gold, that's Lead and Gold _CDH on the Twitter, who tweeted on Tuesday, July 14th, Red Eye used to be an alternative to The Daily Show. Now it's just a cheap copy of it. And by the way, Lead and Gold does have a blog, and I am going to put the link to that as well as to other relevant articles and pages up at UBG Contact on the Twitter. That's where you can contact me with comments, questions, show suggestions, awesome American suggestions. It is the main contact point for the show. It was discussed among many of us that if the Red Eye panel continues to be overstacked with people who are far left of center, that it might be time for us to move on. This again drew fire from certain people. But I think those people don't understand some major things here. First of all, the market has to decide whether or not a venture like a television program works. And in the modern television world of 2015, show producers and hosts get immediate feedback from the fans. Ignoring that feedback can mean loss of audience. Now, the standard issue response to any complaints about an overweighting of leftists on the Red Eye panel is that Fox News Channel does not just preach to the choir that they are fair and balanced, and therefore there must be a certain amount of leftist contribution to any one of their programs. This doesn't take into account, however, the fact that progressive opinion is vastly overweighted in representation in movies, other television programs, music, and all other forms of popular media. Fans like me will post things on the Red Eye hashtag that we feel are of interest to fans of Red Eye, and this is a good and appropriate thing to do, despite opinion that has been received by me otherwise. Because Red Eye is not just a television program, but a community. And it's a community of people who are mostly interested in similar things. Worst case scenario, if I decide to stop watching Red Eye, I will continue for a while sharing things of common interest with Red Eye fans on the hashtag, because I think there will be some fans that will hold on regardless for a considerable amount of time. Changing the panel content to one that increasingly does not reflect most of our views will most likely be detrimental to Red Eye's viewer numbers, and it is good, right, and appropriate that the fans point this out. Now, I understand that Tom Shalhoub is a new host of the program, and he wants to try some things out and put his own stamp on Red Eye, and that's fine. But it's also fine that show fans communicate respectfully when we find certain aspects of the program objectionable. Now I'm going to get to why this is relevant to my program. You see, in the modern post-constitutional United States of America of 2015, it's becoming more and more difficult to be that guy. You know that guy. That guy that posts the uncomfortable stuff on Facebook and Twitter that isn't fun. You know, that guy. The one at work who seems to always be talking about politics and how you should get involved. You know, that guy. The guy, quite honestly, that you really wish would just shut up and go away. See, because it's way easier not to be that guy. Because people think you're a lot more fun, and you don't get marginalized, misrepresented, or made fun of, because you're that guy. See, in the United States of America today, regardless of the subject you're talking about, when you're rocking the boat, people don't want to hear it. Now, that's certainly been the case as long as I've been alive, because people who know me from the years I was growing up know that I've pretty much almost always been that guy. When things weren't right, I said something. When I thought things were unfair, I said something. When I saw injustice, I said something. Come on, man, lighten up. It'll all turn out okay. There's no need for you to worry about it. Don't go away mad, just go away. That's the reaction I got. See, the other aspect of being that guy, or that woman, is that while you like to have as much fun as everybody else, you've taken the time to look around, and you've seen that things aren't right. And you want to warn your family, your friends, your coworkers, your associates, that things aren't right, so they won't get any worse. But when you're that woman or that guy, that means you're going to get some feedback. And often it's not going to be good. Now, sometimes it is. In the case of this Red Eye issue, where I raised some truth, I got good support from friends in the Red Eye Twitter feed, like Linda King. That kind of support makes it easier to be that guy. Or that woman. Because, trust me, people, for those of us who are old enough, we know that being that woman or that guy is not going to be something that's going to get us a lot of rewards. In fact, it's often going to get us the opposite. But by the time we reach a certain age, we do what we do because we know it's right. And we associate with others who do the same. And I want this clearly understood. While doing what I do can be difficult in its way and time-consuming because I want to try and put out a quality product, I know that I'm not even in the same galaxy as men like Ken McClinton, who is demanding a hearing before the Washington, D.C. City Council concerning the unsolved murders of his daughter Charnice Milton and others. Nor am I in the same galaxy as Major Garrett of CBS News, who dared to buck the system of the White House press corps and asked the dictator-in-chief, President Barack Hussein Obama, a relevant question about the 4 Americans still being held in Iran who will not be released as part of the deal that this president and his Secretary of State, Heinz Gigolo John Kerry, made with Iran, a deal which has condemned Israel to death. And I am not in the same universe with the foot soldiers and angels of the English Defense League. People who hit the streets of the United Kingdom in their numbers, marching, chanting, and peacefully protesting the Islamization of the United Kingdom. On July the 25th, there will be a national demonstration of the English Defense League in Lincolnshire. In the city of Lincoln, they will gather and peacefully demonstrate against the building of a mega mosque. Now, Americans need to understand that mosques are not the equivalent of churches or Jewish temples. As we have seen in the Boston bombing and in the Oklahoma City beheading and in other attacks, Muslims have been programmed with hate from these command and control centers of Islamic ideology. When mosques appear in neighborhoods, they soon become Islamic enclaves, where Muslims move in and make things as uncomfortable as possible for their non-Muslim neighbors until they leave. This has not escaped the notice, by the way, of some city fathers here in the United States of America. However, the Justice Department of President Obama is making sure that this part of his plan for the Islamization of the United States of America is not disturbed. When city officials deny permission for mosques to be built, they become targets of this president's Department of Justice. In the United Kingdom, Australia, and other countries, those who oppose the proliferation of mosques are vilified as racists. And yet, when you look at the history of the spread of Islam through the Middle East and now into Europe, you see that the concerns of these people is justified. Along with mosques and the Islamization of neighborhoods come Sharia patrols, rape gangs, and organized recruitment of non-Islamic girls and boys for the purposes of underage prostitution. The English Defense League Lincolnshire Division will be leading this national demonstration on July the 25th, and they will be joined by podcast host-producer Kel Fritzy of Canada, who will be representing North America, including myself, for this very important demonstration. She will be introduced by Jeff Mitchell, host of English Defense League Radio, the man I call the Lion of the EDL. I panel on the English Defense League radio program, which is currently heard on Fridays and Sundays at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. In a recent EDL radio podcast, we discussed the upcoming national demonstration with Teresa Horn-Hooper of the Lincolnshire Division of the EDL and the EDL media team. Teresa shared some good insights, expanding on some of the reasoning behind the upcoming demonstration.
As a lot of you are aware, recently there was planning permission for a mosque to be built in Lincoln, and they've recently broke grounds on that, so they've started the preparation for building it, and it's not very far away from where we actually live. And there is also a lot of other activity going off with the Muslim population around Lincolnshire. It's not a great big population of Muslims in our area, but we have noticed since the broke ground on the mosque, we have noticed a lot of them seem to be appearing from nowhere.
Yeah.
There are a few issues regarding Muslims in and around Lincoln itself. I mean, just the other week we had a mother contact one of our pages that we've got set up regarding her child has autism, learning difficulties and such, and she gets picked up and dropped off from school through the council's taxi service, and they turned up to her house this particular morning with a Muslim driver and also a female Muslim in a full burqa who couldn't speak a word of English. That's something else that we're going to be highlighting at our demonstration. The sort of things
wouldn't that be rather scary to the child concerned, would you say, Teresa? You see people dressed like that in a full burqa, it can be a bit intimidating for the poor kiddie, couldn't it be?
Very much so, Jeff. I mean, children with any sort of learning difficulties or disabilities, they do like to have stability and know the people's faces. They need to see people's faces at all times.
That's what my whole point, Tree. This is what I'm saying, that we've had issues like this before with teachers being at school. They went in just ordinary westernised gear to a school. This is going back a few years ago. You probably remember, Tim and the rest of the panel. This woman, she went for the interview and she got the job, and she didn't tell them anything about that she will be coming in the full hijab when she went to the school for the start of first day.
Yeah.
And it frightened the kids. The kids were, and of course this was under false pretences. But this is something I wanted to talk to you about tonight, Teresa. That was a story that I know that you've been following that story a little bit. And what was the outcome to this problem? Have they managed to get another driver or something, Teresa?
We've not heard recently from the mother, but she has said that we can use her story at our demonstration. She's aware of it. And she said, as long as we keep the names out, which we've said no names will be mentioned. I mean, the child was called racist, and the council even said that they'd be deemed as racist, and the family they'd have the taxi company cancelled, basically. They'd have a school escort and everything cancelled if the child didn't get in the taxi. The parent had to go through a lot of different issues to try and get it resolved, which is not fair. It's not fair on the child.
And when, as you say, as people turn up, you've got a Muslim driver and you've got, I don't know, maybe a guardian to see her to the school. And with all that gear on, I'd think that child would have been terrified. Think of it in the eyes of the child, especially with problems.
I mean, even a child that doesn't have, even a child that doesn't have learning problems, I think would be rather scared to see that sort of thing.
See, people outside of the United States of America, it is even harder to be that guy. In fact, it can be downright dangerous. To be that guy or that woman in the United Kingdom, for instance, can get you physically attacked with no legal penalty for the assailant. It can lose you your livelihood. It can potentially lose you your freedom because those deemed racist in the United Kingdom can actually be imprisoned. And due to the hypersensitivity of the British government to the feelings of Muslims, it can even lose you your children.
They can't come on demonstration because, as we know, people lose their jobs. It's a career killer.
There's been people that's lost their children in the past because of it.
We have, Teresa. We have. We've heard about this, haven't we?
Which is extremely
occasions. You know, it seems that this is a way. It's an evil way that they try to shut us up.
Silence people,
Silence people by taking people's children. It's wrong. This is why we're here. I mean, why we're all here, because we're thinking of the future. We're thinking of our children and our children's children. And if we weren't here doing what we do, and I think we're doing it the right way, we're not, going down any path but the EDLs, is what we've always said. What would happen to this poor country of ours if we wasn't here, Teresa? That's why I look at it. What would happen to this country?
I dread to think. I really do.
I'd like to hit something, guys, if I might, because
please do.
People over here in the States don't fully understand this. Now, people are losing their kids because they support the English Defense League. Now, Teresa, can you speak to that?
There has been a few cases where people have lost their children because they're within the EDL.
See, when we go to a demonstration here in the United States of America, we know that, for instance, because of our Second Amendment, that we can protect ourselves with guns. They can't do that in the UK. If you're caught with a handgun in the United Kingdom, it's an automatic 5-year imprisonment penalty. So in the United Kingdom, if you want to peacefully protest the Islamization of your country, you do so armed only with determination and just a hand with some skin on it to defend yourself with if you have to. And even then, you can possibly be imprisoned while your assailant is let go. See, guys, this is why, as an American, I support the English Defense League. Because while too many Americans aren't even willing to put leaflets in mailboxes or so much as make a phone call to their congressman or senator that might do some good. The foot soldiers and angels of the English Defense League are peacefully confronting evil on the streets, and they are making a difference. One of the few rewards for being that guy is that sometimes others do actually listen, and sometimes action is taken. In the case of the English Defense League, if it were not for their continued pressure, no one outside a very small sphere of people would have known about the abuses in Rotherham, which saw over 1,400 girls and boys sexually abused by Muslims over a period of years, while the British government ignored this abuse because it was more convenient for them to adhere to diversity, political correctness, and multiculturalism. The English Defense League is making a difference, and you can make a difference too. If you want to help the English Defense League and can't make it over for a demo, as I'd love to do, they do have a donate button on their website, and I will include that link at UBG Contact on the Twitter. No donation is too small. If you admire the patriotism, the bravery, the tenacity, and the love that the foot soldiers and angels of the English Defense League have for the people and culture of their country, that culture from which the United States of America sprang, consider sending them a few dollars. Because these are volunteers. They're not supported by shadowy billionaires like Occupy Wall Street is in the United States of America. They're ordinary people. People like you. People like me. They're that woman and that guy. You know, a few days ago on Facebook and Twitter I said, the silent become slaves. Well, that wasn't quite right. I urge you to do what you can. Call your congressmen and senators when you feel things aren't going right in this country. If you oppose Islamization, check out the Restore Australia website. You'll find ideas for organization and peaceful implementation of counter-jihadi activities. And understand that those counter-jihadi activities are actually pro-civil rights activities. If you can, gather and demonstrate when you see your country going down a dark path. Be peaceful, be respectful, but be bold. Hold your head up. Make your voice heard. Despite what people may say about you, despite what people may do to you. Because the silent are slaves. That's it for this time. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for listening, and may your God go with you. Goodbye. The Unpleasant Blind Guy is copyright 2015, Anno Domini.